The following program is a special presentation of the Big Ten Network, produced in association with the University of Wisconsin.
She's in charge of connecting 372,000 people around the world. What's their connection and how does she do it? Find out next on Wisconsin Reflections. Since 1861, an organization has been around to connect graduates of the University of Wisconsin-Madison. The Wisconsin Alumni Association may be old, but it hasn't stayed rooted in the past or in Wisconsin. More than 100 chapters worldwide reach out and touch the lives of nearly 400,000 living UW grads, working to maintain that sense of community that touches anyone who has studied in Madison. Leading the charge into the new millennium, Paula, who came to Madison to get her master's degree and never left. She would have driven a cab, but she chose to run the UW Alumni Association instead. Paula's with us today. Hi, Paula.
Hi, John. It's
How
great to be here.
Great to have you here. I noticed you're wearing red.
Well, that's fun. Aren't you surprised?
Can you imagine that?
I can't believe I came in red today.
When you travel all over the world,
yes,
you talk to grads of every decade. What is the emotion, if you were to say one word, the emotion that comes to them when they talk about where they went to school? What would that emotion be?
Passion,
yeah,
commitment. They feel absolutely changed from their time here. And that is one of the common themes I hear, whether they came from the East Coast, a small rural town, over in Illinois and Chicago. Something about being here changed them in a way that has made the difference in how they've gone on to live the rest of their life.
How is what they observe about their experience at Madison different than an Ann Arbor alum or an Evanston alum or a Champaign alum would say about their experience? Is there anything unique to the Wisconsin experience? And again, it's hard to have objectivity.
Right.
There's nothing more, faithful than an alum of a Big Ten university. But how is the Madison experience differentiated from other Big Ten experiences?
I think a lot of that differentiation, John, comes from what we call the Wisconsin idea, which was really started here at this land-grant university back in the early 1920s, where you have an obligation, the university has an obligation to positively affect the quality of life of the people around the state. Now it's around the world. And underneath that kind of mantra comes a commitment to civic engagement, public service, feeling like you are really charged to make a difference in the world because you've attended here. And people actualize that in many different ways. But I think at the core, there's something really bonding, really differentiating for the University of Wisconsin around this idea of service, outreach, civic engagement, do the public good.
One of the most telling stats, perhaps the most telling stat about the UW-Madison, my alma mater, is that every year it's either leads or is near the top in Peace Corps volunteers and CEOs of Fortune 500 companies. To me, that's about as concise as a way you can kind of describe the Madison experience.
Absolutely right.
I don't know how you feel about that.
I think it really is great testimony to what we were just talking about. We're still #1 among all universities in the number of people who enroll in the Peace Corps. #1 for Teach for America. I was just talking to a young grad earlier last week, and she is in Chicago teaching there. There are 21 Teach for America participants in the program, and over 10 of them are from the University of Wisconsin-Madison. 10 out of 21 from all the colleges around the country are there teaching in that urban setting. I had a similar statistic for New York City, where 7 out of 25 were just from the University of Wisconsin-Madison.
Aside from the Wisconsin idea, which is a lofty philosophy, it's wonderful, why do you think these 19 or 20, 21-year-old students do what they do in Chicago and New York and New Guinea? What is it about Madison that changed them?
Well, we have a tremendous assortment of different kinds of people who end up coming here to study together. Students from metropolitan areas, small little rural
Sheboygan.
areas. Sheboygan, Tony, Wisconsin,
Sure.
Fenimore, but Chicago, New York City, Bangkok,
Cali.
Hong Kong,
California.
California is a big place, and the incredible mix of personalities, income levels, different experiences make this such a learning opportunity every day, whether you're in the classroom or outside of the classroom. You have this great, extraordinary diversity of folks that you get to know, sit down and have a cup of coffee with, whether it's the Arabic coffee table at Union South,
right.
You know, all these different opportunities to see the world in a whole nother way than if you had stayed right in your hometown and never left.
I agree with you. I think the mix, particularly historically, Wisconsin's had a very large international student population, the largest for a long time.
Right.
And that's presented some challenges for you as it relates to connecting our Pacific Rim alums, European alums. That presents a very interesting challenge that they might not, you know, struggle with at Lawrence University or something.
Well, that's true. It makes our alumni relations program need to be very broad, very comprehensive. It's certainly in the last 15 years assisted us tremendously in connecting with alums living around the world through the internet, email, the digital world we live in has really assisted us in making those connections. And those alums who live internationally are fascinating because they've come here and studied and they go back to their home countries and they are truly running the country. They're leaders of their universities, their government, their CEOs. They are amazing movers and shakers in their countries.
Let's hear more about that, plus this little digital world you're creating. We'll be right back with Paula Bonner. Please stay with us. Thanks.
This production of Wisconsin Reflections is produced by University Communications at the University of Wisconsin-Madison.
Consider this. There's a public university that consistently ranks among the top in the number of Peace Corps volunteers and in the number of graduates serving as CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, whether they are leading corporations or changing the world. The next time you see people doing extraordinary things, they are probably Badgers. The University of Wisconsin-Madison. Forward thinking.
Hi, we're back with Paula Bonner. She heads up the University of Wisconsin Alumni Association. Paula, you deal with a global community that you keep connected to Madison. Talk to me a little bit about your travels. You travel all over the place. It's quite a proposition, and I imagine your bag's always packed.
And I'm ready to go. Shall we go into the Peter, Paul, and Mary song here,
right.
John? I think that would be
Where
good.
have you been? Tick them off.
Oh, I've been to London, Bangkok, Hong Kong, Taipei, Seoul, Korea, over in Tuscany, all over the Mediterranean.
Where were you here?
This was Bangkok.
Hi, Paula. How are you?
At the International Convocation in November of 2000. And we had about 125, 150 alums. This is the delegation of deans and faculty. Chancellor Ward was there.
Right, sure, David Ward.
And that connection with Bangkok, they're kind of our star international group. As you know, they've also donated an amazing Thai pavilion to Old Brick Gardens here in Madison, Wisconsin, and that connection between them is very, very unique.
It's been a great run for the University of Wisconsin-Madison. Sports plays a role in this. The Rose Bowl visits, the resurgence of Wisconsin sports, both football, basketball, hockey. But it's fair to ask, will things be... It's fair to say we won't always win. If history proves correct, how do you maintain that enthusiasm through good seasons and bad seasons when you don't have the bragging rights that we've had in the last 15 years?
Well, it has been a great backdrop the last 15 years to see the university become really one of the hot places in the country. This is a hot university, and the excitement and national visibility due to the athletic programs, achievements have been great. Along with that, though, that made it a hot university was not only 3 Rose Bowls, but the phenomenon that Donna Shalala started in around 1989 of really working to improve the quality of undergraduate education. So much has also been happening academically to make the experience of each individual student so much more personal, so much more enriching than perhaps some grads experienced in the 80s or late 70s when we'd grown really big, had a real strong research orientation, which is great, but Donna helped us all see that we can be everything if we want to, if we work really hard at it. We can have athletics, we can have academics, people can have really personal experiences with faculty through undergraduate research. So all of the synergy of all that started in 89, 90 with the change in athletics and the change in approach to undergraduate education are all part of the picture that I think helps us overcome those moments when, you know, maybe we're going to be 4 and 7.
Yeah.
Or, you know, you and I have lived through those
Well,
moments
and, you know,
in time.
I just have to say, as an alum and I grew up in the shadow of Camp Randall. Okay, I don't take. I love sports. Okay, but I used to beg for Pat Richter's chin strap, you know, after practice. But I've always been more proud about Madison's academic and cultural and frankly the aesthetic of being on the lake and everything than I have of any specific athletic achievement. To me, that's just icing on the cake.
Right.
And when you run into people, as I do traveling away from Madison, they say, "Oh, Madison, oh, I had one of the best times ever on State Street," or the Union Terrace. They don't always hearken to athletics. There's a broader proposition at work.
There's a great sense of place here. You mentioned the Union and going up and down Bascom Hill when there's snow on the ground and the wind is whipping. There is something that goes beyond just being a sports school,
or just being a college student,
and just being a college student. You know, there's an intensity of experience. I think, and we often talk about this among ourselves over at the association with the staff, is that one of the other great attributes of Wisconsin graduates is we don't ever take ourselves too seriously.
Here.
That is such a gift that whatever all factors have led to that, we are brilliant, we work hard, we have a lot of fun. There's a great story, if I may tell it, of Professor David McDonald leading one of our international trips from Siberia over to Moscow on a train. And the other 2 schools were Harvard and UCLA. And the train ended up in the middle of nowhere and had some mechanical difficulties, screeched to a stop. And the Harvard people were like wanting to call their lawyers and sue, and the UCLA people were just grumbling, and they just couldn't believe this was happening, and they were pouting. The Wisconsin group went to the bar, started playing cards, went out and started working on the train. They just took charge of the situation. They made the best of it. They had fun. And it's just a great story that illustrates some of this attitudinal difference that I think really is really special about
some of the attitudes going political now, too, and I want to talk to you about that when we come back. We're going to be back with Paula Bonner in just a minute. You know, hey, we're back with Paula Bonner, head of the University of Wisconsin Alumni Association. We were talking about the Madison attitude in break. We talked about how actually the onion, which came about in Madison, is the best manifestation of the export of the Madison attitude. It's kind of changing everyone's way of looking at the media. But there's some work afoot to leverage Wisconsin's alumni political power. Every year or every other year, however often there's a state budget.
Every 2 years.
Every 2 years. There's a lot of knocking heads with the legislators as it relates to the value of the University of Wisconsin-Madison. And you're mobilizing the alumni to help give voice to the value of it. Can you talk to me about that?
Sure, John. The advocacy piece for the association is actually one of its founding principles. Back in 1861, the first 12 grads saw the legislature perhaps not supporting the university to the degree they wanted, and they formed the Alumni Association. So
imagine that, a Wisconsin group being political.
Exactly. Activists from the very beginning.
Absolutely.
That's right. So we do a variety of things to try to keep our alumni informed of the issues in the legislature that can affect the quality of education at the university. Just this fall, we've run a Save Bucky campaign to really get our alums involved in sending in postcards, letters. We've had over 30,000 messages come in to the legislators. I think that's made a big difference.
Is the friction between the legislature and the university worse than it's been, or is this just what happens every 2 years?
When I look at the history of the Alumni Association and the university throughout the decades, I can see some friction, between the university and the state. I think the demands on the state tax dollar now, with the shift in K through 12 funding and those kinds of things, the demand has made the issue tougher to deal with.
Right.
There's not as much money. There's a lot of obligation the state has. And then there are folks who really want to see, they don't want any new taxes. There's the whole tax issue with Wisconsin. And who wants more taxes?
Well,
I don't want more taxes.
The day of anyone getting a blank check is over.
That's right.
The thing that is tough to make an argument for when there's short-term cash shortages, and you're dealing with an institution like the UW-Madison, which offers long-term return on investment. Not all of the investment is immediately, you can't point at it right away and say, oh, see, here's how we contributed this year to the investment you made this year. It's a longer view than that. And that's a tough case to make sometimes.
It is, but as we've moved into a knowledge economy and the value of the four-year degree, not only to the individual, but to the economic development of the state continues to grow, that investment in higher education has really never been more important.
Absolutely.
When you look at what really drives the economy these days and the kind of businesses and companies and research that are going to help fuel the finances.
I don't care
to
think about my home state without UW-Madison.
Absolutely
not. That's a frightening thought.
Can you even imagine that?
I don't want to say what state we'd look like. I'd get in trouble. But David Ward once termed UW-Madison an interesting miracle in that a state like Wisconsin, with its rather small population, with primarily agricultural population when the university was first being built, he called it an interesting miracle that really Wisconsin has this unbelievably impressive, internationally renowned university. The fact that the people of Wisconsin chose to do that, he termed an interesting miracle. And it does have to be safeguarded. Again, no one deserves a blank check, but sometimes I worry that it's not appreciated to the degree that it should be.
Well, I think we have to keep working on our communication, our outreach, telling the story of the benefit of the university.
You can't assume that everyone thinks it's wonderful.
That's right. It's not maybe in your face every single day. People lose track of it. But I think, John, it's also an interesting point in time to think about how can the state have its relationship with the university in a way that is appropriate in this 21st century. Yes. Are there some new adjustments in that relationship between the state and the university that would acknowledge the limitations that the state has in its funding and in return provide some flexibilities in how these revenues go back and forth between the state and the university and provide a little more entrepreneurial approach to management.
The enterprise approach.
The enterprise approach, and I think that's key.
We're not the only university with this problem. So
Absolutely.
This is nationwide. We'll be right back.
For more information about the show or to be in the audience for future tapings, go to www.wisconsinreflections.wisc.edu. Okay, with me now is Flat Bucky,
And for those of you who don't know the flat Bucky phenomenon, Paula's going to tell us. There you go, Bucky.
Hey, Buck. We started the Flat Bucky a couple of years ago in our member magazine, The Badger Insider. And every issue, Bucky is receiving some new costume. He's got a Hawaiian shirt, he's got a New Year's Eve tuxedo, he's got all kind of different outfits, and we are having alums email in pictures to us from around the world where they've taken Flat Bucky, easy to carry.
Sure.
He's on the top of the Great Wall of China. He's in front of Buckingham Palace.
Here he is now?
There he is.
Oh, nice.
Isn't that cool?
That's excellent. I love the forced perspective bit here. That's excellent.
There we go. So
he looks a lot larger. You know, if you know how to frame the shot, you can make him look bigger than the Wall of China.
That's right. That's right. We've got some good photographers out there among our alums. But this has been one of those kind of community building activities where people are around the world, they take Bucky, they see other alums, they send us pictures. It's one of our things, is how can we keep conversation, relationship, dialogue, fun, and substance happening all at one time.
How can you not have fun with Bucky?
That's all you can do is have fun with Bucky.
Name a better Big Ten mascot. I know this sounds self-serving, but
no,
I'm sorry.
There's nobody better.
Sorry, Boilermakers. Sorry, Wolverines.
That's right.
The job that you have, I've got two questions for you. First of all, name one moment when you just looked around and said, boy, what a great job I have. What would that moment be?
Well, one of them has to be one of the things we talked about earlier when I'm over in Bangkok, where alums have come in from around the world, and we're there all together talking about commerce and the environment, and you're seeing the worldwide reach of this great university and the amazing people that make it up. That was one of them. You have to go back to that moment in '94 when you're sitting in the Rose Bowl with the first Rose Bowl game in 30 years, and the place is packed.
And the band on the boardwalk.
And the band on the boardwalk, those great moments, and you just see that throng of love and passion and support. And then I also see it when I have that feeling when I've been at graduation ceremony for Grandparents University, a new lifelong learning program where grandparents are bringing their grandchildren. They get to be on campus. They major in all things like astronomy and theater and that kind of thing. And that intergenerational learning, that legacy, that passing on of the love of life and education from one generation to the other, and for the association to be part of that is just extremely fulfilling.
Well, what a great run you're having, and congratulations.
Thank you, John, so much.
And what's next? Any real big initiatives you want to let us know about?
Well, we're going to keep doing some very exciting things with our website, doing more and
Which
more.
I'm becoming a fan of.
Good.
You're talking to me every week.
That's right. That's right. We want to keep that dialogue going. Want to do more to connect alums in very unique subgroups so they can have some fun and learn from each other. So just connecting 200 of the 400,000 alums, that's what we think about every day.
Keep it up, Paula.
Thanks,
it up.
John.
On Wisconsin, baby.
On Wisconsin.
On Wisconsin. We'll be with you next week. See ya.
The preceding program was produced by the University of Wisconsin in association with the Big Ten Network.